us today, and especially Hrushi for doing this session with us. Thanks for doing this again, actually, this year, because last year also you had shared a very good session on CX and CX measurement methodologies, and I think that was quite a hit session. Thanks for doing this session again on something related to CX and UX and empathy. Um, and we are back with the brain food sessions again for this year again. So hopefully we'll see more sessions like this later in the year as well. Thanks everyone who's joining us today, either on the Zoom call or also on live streaming. And as we go along, there will be more people typically joining. So we'll start the session now. So today's session is from Hrushi, who's a dear friend of mine and is a CX advisor. And from he's actually quite an expert and has been doing a lot of consultation related to CX. So he has been, providing services like CX maturity assessment, CX playbook, customer journey mapping, program design, survey design, the whole change management workshop. So quite a fair bit of, as you can see, services related to CX and change management and in general customer journey and how to improve CX overall. So he is a certified customer experience practitioner from the CPD Group UK. He and I go on seeing him continuously improving himself in his CX knowledge every month or so. He's like actually joining a forum or doing some certification, and obviously I've seen him teach in a lot of universities across the world, and being associated with almost every other CX organization, you name it, and he's there. He's speaking at all the forums and for different podcasts. Yeah, he's quite a busybody, I've seen, in terms of CX. So amazing work done on CX, Rishi. I'm very proud to know you as well as a friend. So yeah, so today's session, just for anyone who's joining on Zoom, please mute yourself throughout the session. If you have any questions, you can always put it on chat. If you're joining us through live stream as well, put it on the chat in the live stream. We will answer all your questions at the end. So Rishi will take your questions at the end of the session. If you're on Zoom, you can also unmute yourself at the end of the session. Please do not take any screenshots or record the session. We are recording the session at our end, and we will be sharing it with Hrushi and also through our channels on YouTube and LinkedIn. But we would actually just recommend and request you all not to do it at your end. Yeah, so that's from our my say introduction for this session, and let's hear from Rishi on how empathy is the medicine the world needs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanchita. And very good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on which time zones everybody signed in. But yeah, thanks so much for that introduction. And it's good to know that experts like you are following me on LinkedIn and keep a track of the continuous knowledge addition that I'm doing. I am a strong believer of that. This topic is something very close to my heart, and maybe last year, since I write a newsletter, I did write about how empathy is, the medicine that the world needs, because I feel whether it is CX or a bigger domain like marketing or it is business function, people are more, I would say, in the hierarchy order, they are higher up there. So, and if you have to look at people, then I think some things like empathy or even I would say a brotherly love, those kind of things have more of a, I would say, universal acceptance, much more than even the business community. So that's the reason I had written this article, because even when I was coming for today's session, I was thinking that when was the last time someone said that, okay, Hrushikesh, I hear you, what you're trying to say. And I don't think so anybody said that to me in the last, at least my memory of the 8, 10 years. Or somebody saying, I know life is tough for you. What are you going through? What is going on in your mind? How are you able to deal with stress? No, I really can't recollect. That's when I thought that when Sanchita approached me saying this is a very unique topic for the world as well as for the business community, I thought, yep, we should take this opportunity uh, to go ahead, because right now we all are going through some tough times. Some of us are coping up very well with it. Some of us are finding it difficult. But having said that, if we have someone who's caring for us, I think that's the basic of empathy. Yeah. I have also taken a step, as Sanchita said, that I speak at different forums, and I'm one of those who is not able to speak without a PowerPoint. But for today's session, I'm going to speak to you heart to heart, and hence I've not made any of the slides. I have made something known as notes, which I'm going to refer. It's on my desk so that I don't forget any point, but these pointers are with me. Yep. So even I have tried to practice empathy here rather than showing you 1 hour too much of slides, which slides or Power BI or those kind of things you must be doing at your job every day. So I thought, let me take a back step and just speak to you today. And having said that, we all want to be heard, right? After all, I mean, this session might go on for another 50 minutes or so. Maybe I've planned it to speak for another 30-35 minutes and then keep 15 minutes for the question and answer session. But having said that, we all, as people, we have emotions, and we want to be heard. So when we want to be heard, it is very important that we understand that we are not machines. I mean, I'm going to touch upon how empathy is going to be very important, even with AI or even with some kind of automation towards the final section of my talk. But for something like where we are looking at, to be heard, I feel that's when you feel that if someone is hearing me, yeah, whatever thoughts I have, whatever emotions I want to share, the other person is actually caring about me. Otherwise, that bond doesn't happen. And I mean, Sanchita mentioned about that. I have done an advanced diploma from the CX Academy, and I think we had some 10 modules. And if I remember clearly, every module took or spoke about the emotional bonding. Yeah. So emotional bonding is nothing but when we, have that emotional bonding with our work colleagues. It could be with our seniors, it could be our vendor partners, it could be our client. That's where the bond, if it's strong, then you feel that somebody is loyal to you. Somebody might look at doing some kind of repeat business with you. Somebody might even recommend you and talk highly about you. Somebody might just go on social media and spread a positive word of mouth. All this happens only when you have a really good bond. And to make that bond possible, I would say that there are some things known as remarkable memories, right? So again, you might not remember everything that I spoke in today's session, but what you'll remember maybe after 2-3 years is also how I made you feel in this session. Yeah, how we all felt. Yeah, so that's the bottom line, that the content is fair important for day-to-day working, but from a long-term perspective, how someone makes us feel at the end of the day is very important. So if I look at a brand who's going to make me feel like that, I'll be very emotionally bonded. I will have those wow moments with them, and I will have those remarkable memories, as I call it. Yeah, it's a term I picked up while I was doing the course, and I felt that rather than saying delight to the customer, maybe remarkable memories is a better metric or a function. Yeah? To share with all, I typically started my career almost 20 years back, and being a mathematics graduate and an MBA, I was more looking at uh, some metrics that we look at in CX, like NPS, CSAT, customer effort score, or TRIM, coupled with something like, and let's say something like, I would say, regression analysis or correlation. And I always thought that that's where my heart lies, and that's a great contribution I'm doing to the world. But when I was doing that, I missed out on the bigger picture, right? The bigger picture is that after all, while we're doing this, to understand our customers better. And maybe I was in that myopic vision saying that if I'm looking at all numbers and analysis, everything, I'm doing a great job. But then I was missing out on the person itself. I was not even looking at what the persona is or what does the customer really want. When I say customer, the not the client, but the end customer for whom I'm doing. And that's where I felt in the last 6 7 years that more than I would say the quantitative data, if I even look at feelings, quality, kind, which is qualitative data, and then I merge both, it's going to give a much higher sense of achievement as a researcher or as a consultant to me. And that's been the drastic shift for the last 6 7 years. Yeah. Also, if I were to look at some kind of talks that I did recently, more in terms of what's happening in the VUCA world, everybody's aware it's more of the volatile, uncertain, complex ambiguity that we all have, right? Empathy is the most important there. Why? The only reason is that because when I'm talking about uncertainty, at least the people are showcasing empathy, and hence that is going to lead to some kind of, again, a comfort in terms of the other person whom I'm talking to. Yeah. And hence what happens is if I have a comfort with you, I'll be more open to share my feelings. Yeah. If I'm more open to share my feelings, you will get better what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Having said that, I think the best definition of empathy would be that how can I put myself in your shoes? Yeah, or maybe you put yourself in my shoes, saying what was going on in my mind. Was I working before logging into the session, or was I working overnight for a particular PowerPoint maybe deck for a client, and then I've come here at Singapore time? What happened? So that's typically putting each other in other shoes and then trying to visualize what could it be. Yeah. So that's what I think more on empathy is. And when it comes to us, people, it's more easy because I'm talking to you, I can feel that. But when it comes to brands, they will really have to put themselves in the customer's shoes, trying to understand what is it that they're going to they expect. And I think artificial intelligence or automation is the biggest, I would say, enabler and not a threat at all here. Because one, you must have heard of terms like 360-degree view. Now, what happens is if I have an entire complete view on my desk of the customer, I know exactly what has happened to the customer. Have they just come back from a vacation and they are in a very elevated mood, or they are very happy, or God forbid something has happened and they have lost a very close relative just last month, then I need to show more empathy when the customer walks into my retail, or maybe calls up at the call center, or they've sent a nasty email, something like that. So it is very important that some of these artificial intelligence tools are used along with empathy. I mean, some of the forums I keep getting questions saying, with automation and AI, how is even empathy possible? Because the people element is missing. And I completely understand that question is valid. The only way to look at it is that not one is replacing to the other, but the both are synergizing. Yeah. And hence I gave that example that if I have a complete view of the customer, and thanks to the feedback mechanism, we don't only have now behavior data from our CRM, but we also have attitudinal data coming from feedbacks or the posts that they do on social media, sentiment analysis, those kind of things. So this will help me in terms of empathizing with the customer, that what is it that they are looking at. There are simple things, saying that how did the customer feel post the last kind of transaction that they did with us. Yeah. Will they make them feel good, bad, ugly, or was it that they decided to move out of the brand and never have a relationship? Or was it that they were super excited and in fact they kind of took a selfie of themselves with some of our services, and they've even gone a step ahead and posted it on social media? I think that's the biggest form of advocacy for us. We don't have to spend those millions of dollars on, I would say, paid advertisements on TV or digital media. The customers themselves are talking it. Yeah, I'll share a very nice example from my very first job. I was fresh out of MBA in 2004, when the term empathy was not even kind of, maybe of course it was there in the dictionary, but not so much in the corporate world. And I was working with this MNC bank. Yeah, beautifully they would design the branch saying that the may I help you counter, where you first walk in, right? And that's the first lady or man you meet when you walk into a branch. That has to be the most, I would say, knowledgeable, because then they have to divert to the right department. But we identified that somebody with really good soft skills, someone who can smile, someone who can understand the customer, again empathy, is the right fit. And we saw that when we used to have customers come in, and typically, if I rewind back to 2004, 2005, without the digital avenues that we have now to complain or request something like a checkbook or anything, it was very contrast. We used to have a lot of branch walk-ins. Now, the minute we saw that the may I help you counter, the lady has a very pleasing smile and she hears them out, listens, she repeats, she's like, okay, this is what you want, right? The customers used to cool down a lot, because then they feel that, okay, I feel that this brand cares for me, this lady understands what I want. I just need to wait for another 5-10 minutes before she can, maybe divert me to the right um, department inside. Yeah. uh, Sanchita, I'm just taking a break. I hope the pace, tone, everything is fine.
Yes, yes. I
Great.
let me see if there's any questions. Okay, no, as of now, nothing. Yes.
Sure, sure. I think we'll reserve the last 15, 20 minutes for that. Yeah. So then we also saw that if this is working very well, and I mean, no rocket science, but for a bank, the mode of, I would say, revenue is typically from bank assurance channel for insurance, or it could be credit line of business like a credit card or a personal loan, home loan. We also saw that before the bank actually embraced empathy, they were looking at hire and fire to the salesperson, saying, we gave you 3 months to perform. All 3 months, your performance was below expectation or below average, and we let you go. This was what was happening before maybe 2005 era, but then they suddenly changed, taking learning from the may I help you counter, and they started counseling sessions for employees who couldn't perform in terms of execution, back office job, could be in terms of sales. And then they did a very different approach, saying that we will try to put a buddy with you. Yeah, because it gets difficult sometimes opening up your heart and sharing your feelings with your seniors or the trainers. So they did a buddy program. And then once you take your buddy out for a joint sales call, the buddy would just, who is good at understanding and showing some care and love there, would try to find out, okay, your call went well, but you couldn't close it. What happened? Is it that you need some kind of product refresher training again? Or is it that you felt that you underpitched it and this client is actually an HNI, could have pitched him or her 10 times more? What happened? What was going on through your mind? Or what happened the previous week? You seem not so good in your performance. So we noticed that, having done this exercise for almost 3 months or so, we had good amount of, I would say, data to prove that if we don't only look at a hire and fire policy for having met or not met the targets, but rather we have a heart to heart conversation with them, they become more cooperative, they open up, and that is building trust. Believe me, to build empathy, the first and foremost is trust. Yeah. And trust can be built. I mean, I believe there are many definitions, but the best definition is, if I deliver on something that I promised, that's trust. Yeah. Simple. Sanchita spoke to me and invited me to this session. We all are here. So we all believed that this is a session, this is our promise, and we all are here. So we are building trust for each other. Yeah. As simple as that. So the very first step is that you look at building some kind of trust. Once you build that trust, then it gets more easy to empathize with someone. Yeah. So that's where I would rather look at, how empathy is actually looking at. Yeah. Sometime in 2010-11, I remember we did another experiment. I was again a consultant with one of the private banks in India, and what we were seeing is that we had a lot of people from the brand, the tech team coming together and making products, right? Typically, products are, let's say, your savings account, your current account. It could be any of the mortgage loans. It could be investment products like shares, debentures, mutual funds. But when we were doing that, they were relying completely on the data I, as a customer and a market insights person, was providing to them, but they had no view other than that. Maybe whatever they were tracking competition or reading in the newspaper, some articles by the authorities, that's it. So they had no clue exactly how the customer thinks or feels, right? Feeling is more important. So what we started is a customer immersion program way back in 2011-12, where on every Saturday, our head office was closed, but the branch offices were open. So one of the brand or the product team who's designed a product, and those days we had designed a ladies first product. I mean, that was the name, saying that for women, this is the account, only women are going to be enrolled in it. They would have some kind of benefits which are over and above the normal savings account. Some things like, maybe a 10% discount on their medical bills, or it could be a one number that is always given to the bank also in case of emergency, something like that. I mean, there were a whole lot of product features, especially for a woman's only account. We were very happy internally with the data, saying that, wow, this is going to sell like hotcakes. But 3 4 months 5 months down the line, we saw the product isn't even picking up. And that's when these customer immersion programs came into picture, where the product manager who's responsible for this product used to actually go and sit at a branch and observe the branch sales team when they're selling this product. Are they saying about product feature 1 2 3 4? Which one does actually raise the eyebrows of the lady, or which one she shrugs her shoulders saying, I don't want this? Or something saying that if this particular feature was there, I would have taken this particular product. So what happened was more from a, rather than a researcher or a consultant, it was the product team themselves going out in the market, hearing out their TG or their persona, as we say, and then getting what are the feelings that are building up or not building up the offtake of the product. That helped a lot for them, because then they could empathize, saying, I'm sitting in those four boundaries of the office, I designed the product, but what is it that is actually mattering to the lady to take this product or not? Yeah. So that was a big eye opener for us, saying that how can we look at these kind of learnings and then implement it. Yeah. Another point that I have always understood, when it comes to these kind of, I would say, empathy related, I would say, approach, or a customer centricity, as we call it, or a customer centric culture, is that the customer passion is very important. Yeah. Maybe I'm touching upon a new topic, but having said that, we looked at how trust is very important in building empathy, and the other is the passion. So if I'm not passionate, let's say today, about this topic, I would have spoken in a very boring tone. I might have not even prepared myself. In fact, I took 3 weeks, 1 hour every day, just to prepare my thoughts on what I'm going to speak today, because I need a lot of content to speak even for a 40-minute session. So if I'm not passionate about something, then I think half the battle is already lost. So in this case, we need to be very passionate about our stakeholders. So if you are in your finance department, you need to be passionate about what does the CFO, chief financial officer, want from you. The CFO would think, what does the CEO want from me? If I'm in the marketing team, I would think, what does the customer want from me? And so on. So when we have that kind of a strong approach that I'm going to be passionate about my job, about my approach in life, that actually gives us a different kind of energy. And believe me, this energy is very, very important, because if I don't have that kind of energy, I'm not going to do the right thing for the customer. What I will do is, in my mind, I'll do a checkpoint saying I have to tell the customer one, two, three, get their signature here, make them sign this contract, deliver this product, send a feedback form, but then I'm doing more transactional. Yeah. If my energy levels are high, which is because I'm passionate about my customer, we will do what is right for the customer. Yeah. So always remember that that can come only if one, uh, that kind of passion is driven from the top management, which, believe me, most of the companies are doing that. So that's not a prerequisite. I think every leader has understood that empathy, passion, trust is very important, internal as well as external stakeholder. But it is up to me how much of clarity and focus I give. If I give my 100%, then only I will have those kind of, energies. The other, I think, constraint that we have in this is the silos. Because if I am giving that kind of energy levels or passionate about something, but let's say it's a complete journey map, and there are going to be 5 different departments touching the customer, and only my department is passionate and full of energy and the others are not, then we are working in silos. I don't know what they are doing, how they kind of look at. So the best thing to overcome that is, you talk to a customer only from your department perspective, where not all are involved, and you show those small wins to the other departments, saying that, you know what, we handled this customer very passionately, we showed empathy towards them, we understood what they want, and that has either stopped a customer from attracting, or we could be able to cross sell them. And why don't your departments also follow it? Small wins, but sets the example, gives an ROI in their mind, saying yes, this worked. So that's where I think, being passionate is very important. Another thing I've learned from some of the my gurus, or some of the CEOs that I follow again on LinkedIn, that the best way to set this passionate culture is by the leader being available always. Yeah. So if the leader itself is available, then I will think twice, saying, wow, even at that level, having a tight calendar, which the secretary is kind of, managing, doing travel, looking at so many things, board of director meetings. If my Mr. CEO, the top boss, is so passionate, what's stopping me from doing it? So I think that's where I look up to, saying that, and I've seen so many really senior people even write a book, write articles. I don't know where they find so much time. Do they really get up at 4 in the morning? But that energy will have a rub-off effect on me. Yeah. So please look at that. And the other thing is that, what I've also seen in terms of passion is there anything that we are doing where we are doing something repetitive, and maybe I can automate it, so that every time the repetitive task is handled by AI or automation, or some kind of just writing simple macros in Excel, maybe I have more time to think, and then I can smile every time, I can talk better to the customer, because that adds to the customer passion. Yeah? And one thing that we follow when we actually do consulting for some of our clients, saying that if you want to be really passionate, yeah, you have to hire hence the right kind of people. So in fact, uh, we have case studies where we look at what exactly does empathy mean, what is trust, what is passion, what is energy. And the candidate who has come might have really good skills, knowledge, etc. But are they actually displaying any of these traits? And if they are, he or she is a right fit for me, because after all, we all know, skills and product training, everybody will give you on the job. But if you already are having high energy levels, wow, that employee is going to be one of the best, employee that we have looked at. So I think that's where, from a recruitment perspective, also we should focus on maybe the HR department or the talent acquisitions domain, but still the hiring manager also will have to look at, is the energy level really high of this particular individual? Then I need him or her in my team. Yeah. Maybe I've spoken some things on empathy and trust and passion, but hence somebody might stop me in this session and say, what are those top 5 ways or 7 ways that I should follow or I should build empathy on? Yeah. So that might be the obvious question, I'm sure. And this question might come up later. So let me take another 10 minutes just to touch upon it. Yeah. I hope there are no questions or any comments, Sanchita. I can continue.
Not yet, Hrushi. No, no questions yet.
Sure. Thanks for the confirmation. So I personally follow a 5-step agenda, which is typically I look at first when I'm looking at empathy. How do I do it? I follow first point, which is listen. Yeah. So right now also I listened to your colleague and I heard him saying no questions, we can continue. So he's given me a green signal. Yeah. So that's the most important thing. Listen to your customer, let them talk a lot. Yeah. Now this is a session that I am conducting, but had you been my stakeholder, my client, or I would be in my consulting, I would have asked just 3-4 questions and made you speak more in that 1 hour session. Why? Because I completely then understand what you're trying to say. Yeah. So first point, listen. Yeah. Listen is very important. The second point is ask to elaborate. Yeah. So you should always go back to your stakeholder and you say, what do you mean when you say XYZ? What were you actually trying to say when you said ABC? Yeah. When you tell them in the first step, you are listening, and then you are trying to more probe into it, saying, please elaborate, please be specific. That gives them an idea that, okay, I'm being heard. I need to elaborate on it. I'm going to display different kind of emotions during that. And then as me as a listener can understand where their emotions are on a positive side, negative side, where they are really frustrated, what areas. So that will help me a lot. Yeah. The third, I would say, yep. So just as a recap, the first is listen. Second is elaborate. The third one, and the most important, I feel, is you paraphrase what you understood. So you kind of go back and you say, so you are trying to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C. Yeah. And this is what you are looking at. Then you would be more comfortable, continuing with us, or this is what I feel you're looking at today, or this is your request. Tell me if I've understood you correctly. Those kind of things, when we voice over, then the other party also feels that, oh, okay, great, they did listen to me, they made me elaborate, I took some pains to talk more about it or write more about it in a digital channel, and now they are kind of trying to more paraphrase, rephrase it for me if the understanding is right. So that kind of completes any gaps that are there. So once these gaps are done away with, everybody is on the same page. I think these 3 steps help to get to the same page. Then is you verbalize. Yeah. You verbalize in a way saying that, okay, I'm going to look at this, or I'm going to understand this better and come back to you. What happens is it shows that you are interested in whatever query or request they have, and you are going a step ahead even to verbalize it. Yeah. And then the last step is where you try to validate it, saying, this is what you want, it will take this for me, and you will have to wait for 10 minutes, you'll have to wait for 3 days, we need some additional documentation from you, or this won't happen again. If it's a complaint, we will resolve it to the core, and it's my personal assurance it is not going to happen again. That's the 5th step, where I'm trying to validate the process and trying to tell them that you're not being judged. Nobody's going to make any comments why you feel like that. All we are trying to say is that we are here to hear you, to kind of respect what you're saying and give a solution to it. Yeah. So this is as I said, there are different 7-point, 10-point, 5 points steps in creating empathy, but I I typically look at listen, elaborate, paraphrase, verbalize, and then validate. I think this model works very well. In case there are some other models that you have looked at, I'm sure even that's kind of going to be a very good point. Yeah. Uh, Also, what happens is that I've seen that we as people have emotions, and our emotions are different from different to different time. Yeah. So I have always looked at when it was some automobile clients that I was working with. They were fine that the routine servicing of the car might take a day, and I'm fine. I drop my car in the morning and then I pick it up in the evening. But when there is an accident claim and the automobile company is helping me to redo my car and then again get an insurance cover sanctioned to me and all that, then it takes typically 3 4 days. Now the customer needs to be, again, the listen, validate, those kind of example that I gave, needs to be taken in confidence, saying that when it's more of a routine checkup of your car, is the same car, same garage, the same customer, but that is much faster because it's a well set out plan. But when it comes to something like you've got your car which is having a scratch, or the bumper is broken, or it's accident case, then there's a lot of investigation to be done. There's people involved to change it. We will need some kind of machinery to be involved, or we need some kind of replacement of the bonnet, or anything to be bought. So that's going to again take me time to place it, and then of course the inspector will come to inspect the car. So if I give all these process saying, hence it's going to take 6 7 days, and it's not going to be 1 hour job like the usual servicing, the same person but has a different expectation this time. You are just clarifying everything to them. Yeah. So what then happens is they become grounded. Yeah. They kind of become our partners rather than then acting as client. I want everything fast and I want it today. I can't wait 6 days. They actually get grounded. We have seen that. Yeah. So remember always that explaining the entire process, or just looking at how can it be more clear and transparent to the customer, also adds to the empathy bit. Yeah. So that's where we need to look at. Yeah. I did touch upon some points where we kind of were looking at even some AI, because I think empathy in isolation cannot exist now. There is so much of focus on digitalization, AI, and automation, that one thing to leverage, I would say that pillar is that we need to understand also that while we are empowered as employees to take better decisions, even our customers are quite empowered. They know exactly what every brand is offering, what is the brand promise, which companies are delivering on that brand promise. So when they come to us, they already have an expectation in mind that this is what is going to happen, this is going to be a remarkable experience in this way. So we will have to use our tools, to whatever you call it. You might call it AI, I might call it just a simple Excel, CRM, but to better understand the customer and why have they done, why are they here today. Yeah. I'll share you an example of a real estate client which is into reality business of constructing commercial property. What we did was, because it is all about commercial properties, it is more about B2B approach. It's not about selling flats to individuals like me and you, but more on the commercial space. Yeah. Where maybe offices or retail space is going to be set up. So we actually looked at setting up, or rather looking at the last 1 year calls at the contact center, with the call center. And we looked at how is it possible that we can do some kind of sentiment analysis, saying this particular customer is really frustrated when they say these words, or the tone of the voice is something, or their pitch is so high. Whereas in contrast, another customer is not that agitated. They are actually in a neutral mode, not very happy with us, not anything. They just want whatever they want from the documentation perspective for the B2B space to be completed. So So then came empathy on top of it, saying that if I can do that kind of sentiment analysis and I can understand from whatever they are talking, I convert it from a speech voice to a text, and I do the sentiment and text analytics, and I look at keywords, which will give me a lot of confidence of how they are on the call today. Then we could use that for forecasting. When what I mean by forecasting is that somebody calls me, this particular tool in the first 10 seconds, 15 seconds of the conversation will pick up if the customer is really agitated, and they will cool down with some kind of offer or explanation we give, or they're going to churn out. Or it could be another example where they are neutral with us, they are just looking at information, they are not looking at any discounts or freebies today. So this information would pop up on the agent screen real time, saying that basis the last 15 seconds, 10 seconds, this is what actually the customer is looking for today. And so they know that if they are just looking at some answers, we need to be fast enough in giving the precise answers. But if the customer is really agitated and I feel the second option they're going to try, they're going to churn out, then the differential, I would say the differential experience would be that I rather pass on the call to a more, I would say, senior member in the team who knows how to handle these customers. It could be my boss, it could be somebody with 5 years more experience than me. So the risk is kind of done away with. But then to understand these things, it's more about the empathy, because now I have understood with the help of a tool, which looks at these kind of sentiment analysis, and I can actually now take better decisions. Yeah. So always remember, rather than looking at empathy being more people oriented and all AIs of the world, and then the automation being more machine or algorithm based, do not get that feel. It's more of complementing each other is what I always feel. Yeah. So that's the reason why I am giving that example. But having said that, hence we need to be, I did read one book which was more upon how can we be vulnerable in front of our clients. So I think that's also important, saying that if I'm looking at, displaying empathy, the most important is that I be vulnerable in front of my clients. Yeah. In fact, there are books on this, and they will help you understand that not every customer is looking at always a solution. It could be just a talk. In fact, during the lockdown of 2020, I remember reading an article on internet where they displayed a very different kind of empathy. It was a bank in Ireland, and what they did was that they just called up every customer who's above the age of 55 and say that the times are tough, but we are here to hear you. So if your children are staying away, your partner is away, you don't even have a pet at home, yeah, you are single, then do not worry, we will give you this call every Wednesday at 5 p.m, speak to you for just 10 minutes, 5 minutes, because I have to talk to other customers who are in a similar age group as yours. But this is not for any sales, this is not for saying you bank with us, increase our bank balance with us, nothing. So this bank went a step ahead and just spoke for 5 minutes to every senior citizen, I would say somebody above 55 age, just to make them comfortable and say that we are with you, trust us, we care for you. And that's where they showed a very good example, I think, of empathy. And what happened was that come 2022, 23, everything opened up. This bank suddenly had very good scores on their brand image. Customers were looking at doing more business with them, and they just flourished. Yeah. So always remember, it is not always about sales or customer service. It could be just that you do that relationship building with your client, and that's where you have displayed empathy, maybe. Yeah. I'm coming towards the end of my talk. I'm just looking at the watch. I think spoken for the last 40-45 minutes, but I'll take a break, so that, or rather a pause, so that if there are any questions, I think that will be more interactive for us. Yeah. Any questions up till now?
No questions in the chat, but yeah, just opening up the forum. If anyone wants to ask questions, please can you unmute yourself and ask questions? And I'll also check in the live streaming. I'll put in a note for people to ask questions in the meantime.
Sounds good.
So I see a few people in this group. Rachel, Manisha, Ben, Natalia. Any of you have any questions? Would you like to unmute and ask?
I think there is a question on the chat, right? I'll just read it out. If we are building empathy in a one-to-many context, taken an example of a team leader to many team members or teammates, how will the technique or approaches different? I think amazing question. Thanks for that. I think some of the principles will, of course, remain the same because we talked about, listen to them or rephrase it or validate it. So some of those 5 steps will not change. But what would change is that we will have to see that there's a fine, thin line, hence, between empathy and sympathy. So it shouldn't happen that if I'm empathizing with a particular teammate, it shouldn't be that a particular teammate starts feeling that this person is the boss's favorite and the boss always sympathizes with him or her and they get less work or they leave office early. If that is happening, then of course we are moving away from empathy and we are getting into sympathy, and that is not something we are looking at. Yep, we need to have our principles strong. So the techniques or I think approaches wouldn't differ unless I'm doing some favors to one particular team member over other. Yeah. So I hope, Rachel, I answer your question, but otherwise you can type in more if you have. But I see there's another. Okay. There's another question. How do you manage balance between customer empathy and business? Oh, great. Yeah. So to be honest, I think this is more of a relevant question when it comes to the front line into sales. Because if you are into, let's say, just servicing, then your customer empathy, you can always very well manage, very well do it along with your business, which is execution. But when it is sales, I have heard so many sales team actually say that if I keep on displaying empathy, yeah, my customer will be happy, I will get good scores even on a feedback. But you know what, the other brand which is more smart and fast talking and they want to close it within half an hour, they will just close it and taking away. So they kind of look at me and say, Hrushikesh, your session on empathy is of no use to me because I'm being judged, I'm being in the system only for my sales targets. And I completely understand where they're coming from. But having said that, hence I will go back to the principle saying that sales is an activity that happens actually last. What are you doing in those pre-sales activities of building that empathy or building that relationship or bond with the customer is actually important. So even if your competitor is looking at a fast sale, they're not even displaying empathy, but they are giving discounts. The customer, if they are really looking at a long term and they value your brand, then they would rather say that this brand has displayed empathy. Because again, I said, it's not sympathizing with the customer, it's not giving freebies. It is all about listening to the customer, understanding their needs better, and then delivering on it. So I think customer empathy and business, even for sales or after sales, will go very well in hand. So I don't see a disconnect there. I think that question was from Manisha Ben, right? I hope I answer you there. Yeah, great. uh, any other questions, please feel free to unmute or type in the chat bot. I'll be happy to share my thoughts. Again, I would say I'm not an expert on empathy. This is all I have learned by observing people or reading some books, and it's not an acquired. I mean, I would say rather it's something that you would all can practice it. There are so many videos that I saw even on YouTube before coming to the session, and they were beautiful. I would urge, if you are really post my session interested in empathy, you should go through some of those videos. I did that while commuting on and off to office. So I didn't even spend some of my family time on these videos, but it was the commute time.
Sure.
Yeah. Sorry, any other question?
No questions as of now, Rishi. But maybe if you can share some of these videos, then what we can do also, we can post it along with the video which of yours in YouTube and LinkedIn. So yeah, we can
I'll do
post
that. I have your email ID. I'll drop you an email to that effect. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That'll be good. Thanks a lot, Rishi. We are just 8 minutes in short, and then also we can give back people 8 minutes of their time today. Thanks a lot, Rishi. Thanks for doing this again for us. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.